Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community, especially Bernadette Halpin Phillips. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Present.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild? Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. Smurl?
Here. Dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, minutes of the Scranton Firefighters Pension Commission meeting held April 17, 2024. 3B, agenda for the non-uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held on May 15, 2024. 3C, minutes of the non-uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held on April 17, 2024. 3D, minutes of the Scranton Police Pension Commission meeting held on April 17, 2024. 3E, correspondence received May 14, 2024 from PFM Advisors, LLC regarding the City of Scranton's bond sale document, General Obligation Bonds, Series 2024. 3F, minutes of the Composite Pension Board meeting held April 17, 2024. 3G, Controller's Report for the month ending April 30th, 2024. 3H, 2024 Cumulative License and Permits Report and April 2024 Report for licenses and permits received May 14th, 2024. 3I, correspondence from the Department of Public Works dated May 9th, 2024 regarding Rubicon usage update.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items?
I just had one. We got 3I, the correspondence with the Rubicon usage update. When I saw our agenda, I had a question on it, but we did speak a little bit about it in caucus. Frank, can we ask when the optimized routes will begin being used by the city? And if they have a timeline on that? Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I do, President Smurl. There is going to be a free community meal, which includes hamburgers, cheeseburgers, macaroni salad, cookies. That will be at the Hickory Street United Presbyterian Church, located at 435 Hickory Street in Scranton. That'll be Saturday, this Saturday, May 25th, 11:30 until 1 p.m. or until the food runs out. It says sit down or take out. The meal is sponsored by Lori and Natalie Imp in memory of Ed and Linda Hartman. And bags of groceries from the food pantry will also be distributed, and all are welcome. So that's this Saturday. Also, I had the opportunity to attend the Deutsche Institute fundraiser held up at the Waldorf Park on Sunday. They're raising funds to finish the roof at Robinson Park, which has a leak to it. Once that roof is fixed, it was a great turnout, by the way. So once that roof is completed, they're going to finish the inside renovation of Robinson Park. The Deutsche Institute is fixing that up, and they operate inside that building, which has been completely renovated. It looks fantastic. And also, Robinson Park, I know that we passed last week the contract for Chalewski contractors who did Oakmont Park. They've started Robinson Park, and that's going to look absolutely beautiful. Expect that to be done late August, early September. Completely renovated, new playground equipment. There's going to be a 900-foot trail that goes back into the woods, paved, a new basketball court, They're planting, from what I understand, 300 seedlings in the park. It's going to be mulched and flowered, and it's going to be really, really nice. New parking on both sides of the street with a handicapped, accessible sidewalk that goes out onto, I guess would be a landing for handicapped to go out onto Mountain Lake. So we're looking forward to that project occurring this summer. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Anyone else?
I have a quick one. I'd like to wish all of the DPW workers, past and present, a happy Public Works Week. Whether it's 2 degrees or 102 degrees, they're on the streets working for us, so I appreciate it and thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
One more announcement. City Hall and DPW will be off Monday for Memorial Day, so both recycling and garbage will be one day behind next week.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
Joan Hodowanis?
Joan Hodowanis, Scranton. Watching TV over the last few days, several of the newscasters locally mentioned that Scranton has now had 5 homicides this year. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm old enough to remember years in Scranton. We didn't have any homicides. And if we had even one in a 5-year period, it was shocking. You have got to start looking as you approach the 2025 budget process. In DOD, what we would do is we would do a threat assessment, and the way we would structure forces and equipment and programs would be based on what the threat required. You got to take a hard look at, is our police department properly staffed, manned, budgeted? Do they have the right equipment? Do they have the right training? Because 5 homicides in less than 5 months? Something's wrong here. And if this trend continues, it's not only putting the public at risk, it's putting our police officers at risk. You can't send them out to face a situation like that with just half the assets they need. So please, I know that budgets are very politically sensitive and people don't want to see taxes go up and yada, yada, yada. But there's a whole lot of things we can live without. We can't live without an effective police department or fire department or DPW. We have to have it. So you're going to have to make some hard decisions, and they may not be popular, but you've got to get this situation under control. You need to talk that way to the administration. This is not going away. Okay, you know, I'm always looking for the union contracts. Police now overdue by 297 days, and the firefighters 412 days. Mr. Uffberg got paid in April $39,000, and he well deserves it. Problem really isn't on his side. It's basically the way prior administrations have treated the negotiation and union contract process. Now, 3E, that PFM document, that has a lot of important information, and I recommend that every taxpayer download it and read it. Among other things, it talked, and this is one of the reasons why I insist on these union contracts and the audits. There's a lot of information about why our taxes are so high and how the money's being spent. That PFM document talked about the high fixed costs from legacy retirement liabilities. This is your debt, your pensions, and your retiree health care. In 2022, 36.9% of the expenditures in the operational budget went to those high fixed costs of debt, pensions, and retiree health care. And that number's only going to go up, okay? Right now, we don't have the contracts for police and fire available to the public. The non-uniform clerical union is in negotiation, so their contract expired in December. And the DPW contract expires at the end of this year. Single taxpayer office, they're in good shape. Now, there's a thing called Other Post-Employment Benefits, OPEB. Okay, and this is your retiree health care and insurance for the police, the firefighters, and the clerical. Guess what? That totals $157.2 million in liabilities, and guess what percent of it's funded? 0. Okay, these are the kinds of pieces of information the public needs to know. The pensions, okay, of $71.2 million in liabilities, 43 million, or 60%, is funded, and that's much better shape. It's better than when we were severely distressed and down in the teens, okay? And the PFM document talks about, you know, the assumptions that the city has, 4.5% salary growth every year. That's a bit optimistic. And 7.25% return on rate of investments, when the general community is basically should be around 6%. So these documents are important, and I'm not going to stop asking for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Xanthus?
Good evening, Kristen Xanthus. There's only 3 reasons why I'm here. One, I, understand everybody is very, staffed, very understaffed sometimes, and a lot can't get done. I had called now for over 2 weeks to the DPW about somebody to clean the street or to patch a couple holes. I called today, and the gentleman I spoke to asked me what's on the street that needs to be cleaned. Now, I don't know how to explain it. The street needs to be cleaned. The second thing is, I don't know if you guys know Dixon Avenue or Greenridge very well right now. You have 2 schools, you have 2 high-rises, and you have a nonprofit now that's for children, for food. And I understand that's very well needed now. But you have no lights down there. At night, once 8 o'clock hits, there's a lot of problems. I think somebody should look into it. The other night, I had somebody ringing my doorbell at 2:30 in the morning and screaming outside. So, I'm not gonna go outside, but they're outside screaming, ringing doorbells. Third thing is, right now with everything that's there right now, with the high-rises, the schools, the nonprofits, I think somebody should look into making it a one-way. You can't even fit a car in front of somebody's house because there's too much traffic. I know, sometimes they say maybe if you know somebody, you could get something done, but I don't really know anybody in the city to get anything done. So, Mr. Voldenberg, I'm sure he's tired of hearing from me, but, he has been a lot of help. But I can't keep calling people, and I'm not going to keep calling the police in the middle of the night. So, I don't know. I asked the mayor at some little mingle thing they had in City Hall the one day about lights or, more police. And I know she says that Greenridge really doesn't, need police, but, it's not very good down there. It's dark as anything, and they put the high-rise in there with nothing, no security, nothing. The one day I went there to ask them something, you walk right in the door of the high-rise. There's no lock on the door. There's no, thing where you ring it or you have to get through another part of the building. You just walk right in. So, if nobody can help with police down there,
There's no lights at all on Dixon Avenue?
where the
Street lights?
where the nonprofit building is, there's nothing. It's as dark as can be. Once 8:15, give or take 8:15 now because it's summer, but once 8:15 hits, It's like, pitch black. You can't see what's going on out there. You can't even let your dog off the porch to take him out to go to the bathroom because you can't see out there. So, I mean, I'm tired of calling people because nobody helps anyway. So, I mean, at least I have a neighbor down the street, but other than that, there's nobody around there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Voldenberg, can we check into the Dixon Avenue as far as the street light situation and see if we can get the street cleaner down there?
I'll take care of both, Mr. King.
Thank you.
At
Next,
this point,
John.
there's some construction down in that area, so it is really dusty. I think
I
it'd be
believe the
help.
construction is complete, so they could do a cleaning, the city or the contractor.
Okay.
Chana Thomas?
Evening, City Council. John Thomas, Scranton. I won't be too long. I'm here to concur with what Kristen just said about Dixon Avenue. Somebody from City Council and does traffic study has got to go down there for themselves and see what's going on in this situation. The top of Electric Street, the 1700 block, you go down the hill, you come to the end by the stop sign. Just take a walk down there with the traffic study man or person, whoever does it, and you'll see the situation. And it definitely should be a one-way street. And please, somebody look into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Elman? Poor Ronnie. Did you get the block of, that block, what block is it? 1700? That's like 1700. I think it's the 1700 block. Is it 1700 block?
I'm sorry, it's probably, I thought it was 1718.
I'm sorry, I thought you'd be here for a little bit. Council. Let's see. First off, I see Mr. Casey woke up again just in time for election, bless his heart. Secondly, are there any intelligent beings left out there who can convince me a couple hundred Americans storming the White House are worse and belong in jails more than millions of immature imbeciles allowed? Being allowed, people, just to totally destroy America by heaps and bounds. If so, you're just too stupid to realize this racist trash supported by the garbage leftists are your future for you and your families. Next. Scranton Housing Authority is advertising apartments, two-bedroom apartments, two-bedroom, up to 8 family members. This is what destroys your neighborhoods. An overabundance of people in 2 bedrooms. Let's just say there's 4 or 5 kids. This is wrong. Besides that, their finances are way up there. $50,000, $65,000 a year. If you make that much money, you ought to be able to rent something somewhere. There ought to be, for Scranton housing to rent, there ought to be a 5-year residency for people that lived in Scranton that need something, not some outsiders that Biden has stuck in here real quick. There ought to be a enforcement of all these apartments with occupancy permits, I guess. Who's allowed? all these illegal houses. I got a dozen of them on North Main where I walk the dog up and back. There's dozens of people in a couple of these houses, especially the 2400 block. There should be some strict enforcement how many people can live in an illegal boarding house. They park cars on both sides of the street. The sidewalks are useless to pedestrians and children. Nobody cares. I've said this a dozen times. Nothing's ever done about illegal boarding houses up and down the street. Renters destroy everything. They don't have nothing to lose, and they don't care, because I got them next door to me. And Section 8 is even worse. I got an abandoned house down the street that was so tore up. It's been abandoned for a year. The house next to it's abandoned. Across the street, they're trying to fix up a house, doing all kinds of work on it, and the roof is almost falling in. You know, I don't understand why they started. Years ago, Gerald Cross said, our worth of this city's declining. That's because of nobody cares about the neighborhoods and enforcing codes that are on the book. And real quick, let me say something about these fools. My son and I were in Ferguson, Missouri at the Buick dealer when those riots were going on. And we were at a restaurant sitting at the counter, and the kid next to my son asked about the arch, and they started talking. He told my son he's getting $15 a day to come riot, room and board and transportation. My son said, how do you know who's on your side and who's not? He said, they got bracelets, plastic bracelets, like orange would be a general, and green would be a sergeant, and so forth. These planned riots have been going on that long. America is just being lost. It's just being lost right under our noses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. Roger Leonard?
Good evening, Council. My name is Roger Leonard. I'm a 23-year employee of the Scranton Public Works. I'm president of IAMAW Local 2305. I want to say thank you to Councilman McAndrew on behalf of all DPW workers for recognizing National Public Works Week. It's something that kind of goes unsaid. I know the administration didn't say nothing about it, so I want to thank you on behalf of every one of our guys.
You're welcome.
I'm here tonight to inform the residents of Scranton that we did not have the 2 open blight positions filled. This may be obvious to residents by the amount of blighted properties that are being neglected in our city. It is my hope that the administration will post these bids immediately to stop wasting time. Time that could be used working to make our city a cleaner and safer place to live. This week is National Public Works Week, a week to recognize all the hard work it takes to keep our city's infrastructure going. Unfortunately, the administration failed to acknowledge this week, leaving DPW union workers to feel they do not respect or appreciate all the hard work that they do every day for the cities and its residents while being understaffed and underpaid. I'm hoping this oversight and delaying of the blight bids is not done in retaliation to union officials performing their duties. To put it mildly, that type of behavior would be unproductive for the city and its residents. I'm hoping that this is not the case, and these bids will be filled within the week, allowing the DPW to begin this much-needed work for our city. I'm again asking the council to investigate this matter further to find the reason for the delay. I do want to respond. I know we had somebody come up here and mention something about cleaning of a street. I want to tell council and the administration, going back the end of the Doherty administration, we lost a lot of our positions. We used to have 2 sweepers and a chauffeur that went out every day. We had more operators, chauffeurs. We lost a ton of positions through attrition, and we've never actually recovered those positions. So on a daily basis, there's tons of jobs to do every day. So we'll have 5, 6, 7 different jobs. You know, we'll have the storm basin going out, we'll have tree crews going out. We do try to put out potholes, they do put them out. We just don't have the guys for the administration and the management to actually put out the amount of pothole crews that need to be out there. We're hoping maybe, you know, this administration will add some positions and we can start doing some more work. I hate to see any of the work being subcontracted out to anybody because that doesn't help the city. Obviously, our guys working on overtime is way less than any kind of for-profit company can do the work for. I mean, you see the issue that we had when they sold the sewer authority, and now we're dealing with the rates that just keep raising and raising and raising. It's never a positive for the residents, ever, when anything's subcontracted out. What I'm hoping is, I said before, the overtime for us, because we were short-staffed, we were doing overtime. It's not overtime for nothing. We'd actually be going out and being able to complete this work on overtime for way less than subcontractors could do it. Now, it's either put the overtime out, add more people to the DPW to fix these problems, not subcontract or any of this other stuff that's going on. I'm hoping that the administration hears us. I'm hoping these positions are filled. We have to get this work done. We're all kind of sick of seeing the blighted properties. I'm hoping it's just an oversight, and it isn't what I think it is. And maybe we can get this thing done. I'm also asking council, if you could, like I said, investigate this matter, see what they said, see what the response is, and I'll be back next week. Thank you for your time.
I do have a response. So I
Sure.
clarified my inquiry last week as to the rationale for placing them 2 positions, the blight positions, in the clerical union versus DPW's union. The prior week, we just got, well, just doing it for the most part. So I asked for clarification. So the response I got back this week is the city placed the 2 positions in clerical in accordance with council's guidance. These conversations never had, well, I was never part of them, so I didn't provide any guidance either way. And based on the city's own analysis. Please note, again, this is part of the ongoing negotiations.
So is council's asking for those positions to be moved? And not the administration?
No. Council requested them to put in the budget, and everybody agreed to that.
Yeah.
What I'm reading and my interpretation is when I asked about the rationale for placing these positions in clerical union versus the DPW union, the response I got last week was vague, so I asked for clarification. So what the clarification I received, and in front of me, the city is stating that the city placed 2 positions in clerical in accordance with council's guidance. So what they're pretty much saying is we told them to put them in clerical union, and we didn't. Well, at least I didn't. I was unaware of any of this.
Well,
And
yeah.
it's saying it's based on their own analysis, which I don't know what their analysis is versus what versus why. I wasn't provided analysis or included in that decision they said that took place. I'm just updating you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I do. That doesn't make any sense.
Because I inquired, and I always read out what's presented to me.
I don't know. Okay.
All right.
I appreciate if any other council members
this-
might know about that.
And this also comes from an email from 3:58 today.
Right, I received the answer to this
Just before this?
4 o'clock, as usual, right before the meeting.
All right. I'll inquire myself and maybe come back next week and have an answer for what's going on with that. I appreciate that. Thank you, council.
Doris Koloski?
Good evening, Council. Doris Koloski, Scranton resident. All right, well, I wasn't even going to bring this up at all tonight because the definition of insanity is asking about the same thing over and over again and expecting a different answer. But somebody had said about that curb cut on Olive Street that because it's ARPA money or something, they couldn't do it. But this was something that the city did many years ago, pre-COVID, was cut down all those corners, and they forgot to cut that one down. So that should just be their responsibility. And that's the last time I'm ever going to mention this again. So, done. All I'm doing here tonight is I have some announcements to make. There's a blood drive going on for Two Moms Demand Action of Lackawanna County. It's been going since May 1st. The last day is May 31st, so you can still go. To schedule an appointment to give blood, you can call 1-800-BA-DONOR or giveapint.org. It's in 400 PA 315 Suite E, Pittston, Pennsylvania. And we would appreciate if you do go that you can mention the code 8846. And you can also call to schedule an appointment, which is 800-223-6667, extension 2. Blood donation is very important, even though this was like a gun safety thing for the month, but it's always very important. I was a recipient of tons and tons of blood and platelets, so I know how important it is. Okay, and next announcement is on Saturday, June 8th at 9 a.m. will be the Stride for Pride with Queer NAPA. We partnered with them in Action Together. There'll be a race, 5K run/walk, and it will be in the Olive Street entrance of the Heritage Trail. And the first, you're guaranteed a shirt if you register by, oh, never mind, that's May 17th, we're past that. Okay, also the same day, June 8th at 1 p.m. at the same area, the Lackawanna Heritage Trail on Olive Street entrance, we're going to have a cleanup that follows. This is for the Wear Orange Month. This is Wear Orange Month, which that was a little girl's favorite color that was killed in one of the mass school shootings, and we celebrate the survivors for Wear Orange Month. And we're going to try to have a cleanup at the Heritage Trail starting at 1 p.m. And it's partnered with other things like Action Together and NEPA Queer. Okay, this one came off Facebook, and I don't know how many, I'm sure you're all aware of the NEPA Youth Shelter. And the NEPA Youth Shelter, which is extremely important to the city, should be very important, especially in the wake of all this gang violence and everything. They're a very important place. And they need to find a new location for their center by September 1st, 2024. So it's key that their location has to be somewhere near Scranton High School or between Scranton High School and West Scranton High School. They would like to have between 8,000 and 10,000 square feet of space. They're happy to paint and fix things up, and they're looking for, hopefully, for a negotiable rent. If you have something or you want something, you may call, this is probably Maureen's number, I'm not sure, but 570-892-1414. And I just want to say, this youth shelter, it's something that we really, really need to keep up at the city. And it's basically volunteers. And if there's anyone up at here at the council know anybody that maybe has a house or a building, or if there's something in the city that's not being used or was repossessed or something like that, that maybe they can get, it's just so important to reach out and see if we can help them any way we can and to spread the word about this. Okay, thank you.
Doris, there's two intersections by your house that you were concerned about. There was a project going on Cedar Avenue. So I had inquired if we could add those in, have the engineer go up and look at your two. But we can't do that because that section down there is funded through ARPA money and other money. Right. And it doesn't meet the requirements, unfortunately, up where you live. It's a different area.
I got that.
So, but what we did was we took those two intersections, moved them to a different funding source. So they're going to do them through a different funding source. I just tried to push it through with the Cedar Avenue one because I thought it would move it faster.
Right, okay.
But we can't because of the rules.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure Norma said that the one on Gibson Street somebody cut down. That one was easier to get around, though, anyway, because it was grass up on the hill that you could just roll over. But the Olive Street one, I know as of yesterday when I walked that
Okay,
wasn't
so they
done.
are on the list. They are on a different list, though.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Like I said, I'm not going to mention it again anyway.
Thank you. Lee Morgan?
Good evening, Council. Lee Morgan. The first thing I want to talk about is crime. Somebody brought up the 5 murders that were committed in the city recently. And I think it's time to understand that the very fabric of Scranton has changed for the worse over an extended period of time. We've had failed leadership across the spectrum, and most people really don't want to hear that because they don't want to hear the truth. And sooner or later, you have to realize in a free society, all these people say they won't talk about sex, politics, or religion. And if you can't talk about the fundamental things in this country that mean something, then I don't know what talking about sports and utter silliness is going to do for us, but I'm sure it hasn't worked out very well. But the Democrats have run this country since World War II almost exclusively, and the damage that's been done to our country has been done by Democrats in general. And I just think people fail to do research and find out where the real problems are. 70% of black children grow up in homes without a father, and Caucasians are catching up. These are all designed by government. Government's empowered all these changes, and it's been a detriment to our society. And the drugs that are filtering through our country and allowing people to cross our border in numbers is a real problem, as Europe is finding out, because they left a lot of immigrants come into their country, and just recently the police were fighting with a gang in one of their major cities where the gang was using rocket-propelled grenades and automatic weapons. And they don't share the values of the people that invited them into their country, and Europe is under a lot of pressure in a lot of different places following the directions of NATO. And we're in big trouble in this country. And, but what I came here to talk about is licensing and inspections, because today I received a letter from the District Justice Farrell where, pursuant to Rule 457, she allowed the city to withdraw their tickets to me, and this is far from over. This is just the beginning of the beginning. But the council claims it's lawmakers, and I find that to be almost laughable, because are your quality of life tickets legal? Do they meet constitutional muster? I'm going to ask that question when I get to federal court. But the question I have for this council is, why don't your inspectors timestamp their tickets and date them when they give them to somebody? Because how do you know when they were given? And the other question is, since you're lawmakers, why doesn't the resident receive a picture of the alleged offense? Now, I've gone through 3 district justices. I don't know if I can remove the 2 that are still sitting by going to the Judicial Discipline Board, but I guess we'll figure that out as we go. But I think that it's extremely corrupt, just like I think that you're extremely corrupt, because you passed this law. The only thing is you ran into somebody that was willing to go file something, and I'm just starting. And I don't think you have enough lawyers to really carry the burden that's coming. I'm only a truck driver. I don't expect to win, but I don't think your lawyers and your legal teams are going to want to be there. I just received a letter from the federal court that asked the county why they didn't respond, and that they were going to issue a verdict in default if they didn't respond. And now I've got the city's legal team asking me to withdraw, that if I'd be interested in considering a withdrawal, and we haven't even started yet. But you know what I find troubling is the people in this city have become serfs. They're not Americans, okay? They're not. They beg and whine, and they've asked their government to represent them, and you've failed. and it's over an extended period of time, you almost feel entitled to it. You run around like the tooth fairy handing out grant money as you destroy the city. You pretend that we can't pick up garbage. The sewer deal was just atrocious. The water rates in the sewer bill come back to the council. Okay, the Scranton Sewer Authority being used as an employment agency for politicians and politics has destroyed this city. There's a lot going on that I've learned here in almost 40 years. I mean, maybe Mr. Smurl, you can explain to us a couple things in your minutes at the end of the meeting on how you've done all these crazy things and why these tickets aren't time-stamped, why they aren't dated, okay?
Okay.
I mean, all these things. Maybe answer a couple questions. The suit looks nice, but we'd like to see some thinking.
I'll give it my best shot. Thank you. That's all for the sign-in sheet. Anyone else wish to address council?
Hello, my name is Tadea Crockett, and I've lived in Scranton since 2017, and this is my first time at a council meeting. I'm a full-time bicyclist. I don't own a car, and I bike 7 days a week, 12 months a year, and I'm just here to say that Scranton is a terrible, horrible place to be a full-time bicyclist, but I love bike riding, and it's a way of life, so I do it regardless. I met with somebody named Joe Etten like several months ago, and he showed me that there was a plan to improve walkability and bike riding in Scranton, but I don't know what the status of that plan is, and I want to say that I read the plan, and it was a great plan, and I really hope that something could be done to get some protected bike lanes in Scranton and improve the walkability and the bike riding in Scranton, because not everybody owns a car or even wants to own a car, and we have nothing but these giant SUVs and Ram pickup trucks, and I've almost been killed half a dozen times, but pretty smart bicyclist. When you do it all the time, you learn a lot of tricks. I ride to work, I ride to the grocery store, and so forth. So does anybody know what the status of that plan is, and is anything being done with that?
What's it, when the plan,
It seemed to be like a study that was done.
The walkability
Yes.
study, I believe she's referring to. We recently got an update at the Lackawanna College, and I believe that they are continuing. It's in process. It's not dead. And I believe the engineers are doing further studies to I think that it's going to be phased, truly. I don't think it's all going to happen at once. So the engineers are just looking at some of the viability of doing some of these things, because some of it involves switching streets to one-ways, possibly replacing street lights with stop signs, adjusting some parking. So,
Well, this would be great if even there was one north-south and one east-west protected bike lanes in Scranton, because if you have the protected bike lanes, more people will ride bikes, and there'll be less cars. And the only other thing I want to say is there's so much broken glass all throughout Scranton that several times I've had someone who I know has a car, and I've gotten a broom and dustpan and so forth, and gone out and cleaned up as much as I can. But it's just like everywhere. And that makes bike riding really difficult, because in Scranton, basically all you have is the gutter, because there are no bike lanes. So you have the gutter to ride in, there's parked cars, broken glass, so it just makes it difficult. Anyway, I just came here to speak out for bicyclists.
Ms. Crockett, I just had one question. Where do you predominantly bike ride?
Well, I live on Clay Avenue, and I work at Marywood, so I go back and forth to work from, I live in Clay Commons Apartments, and I go from there to Marywood University for work, and I go to Ricardo's and Giant Food for groceries, and I come downtown a lot, come down Olive Street and zoom around.
Yeah, I asked that because a lot of the bike lanes in the walkability study are downtown. I know Wyoming Avenue may be the first ones if they get put in, so.
There's no
just wanted
bike
to know.
lanes in Scranton now.
Right.
There's only, there's the Heritage Trail, which is nice, but doesn't get you around throughout here. And there's plenty of places where there could be, I mean, I know it costs money, but if there was good bike lanes, there's hundreds of podcasts about bike riding in cities. There's places like at the top, Amsterdam, and unfortunately at the bottom, like Scranton. So it's like if we could just be lifted up a little bit, it would be nice. And we do have a really good bike store, bike repair shop in Cedar Bicycle. I don't work there or even know the people there, but that's one of the big things we have. So anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marie Schumacher, citizen of Scranton and taxpayer. Just a few things. Number one, what is going on with Sorrenti? I thought that it was going to be sold. When will we see that?
Sorrenti Center is not up for sale.
So what are we going to do with it then?
It is, it's being used for storage for police equipment. There's offices in there, and it's being used for training of police.
What happened to the promise that was made to us when we approved buying that? It said we were going to get revenue.
Yeah, I don't know that.
So just no revenue, just.
Not that I know of.
Okay, another one. Meadowbrook, how many rights-of-way are left?
Are left? I'm not sure. We could find out, Mr. Voldenberg.
I don't know,
We'll
yeah.
check again. Meadowbrook, how
I'll
many are
check
left?
with Attorney Hughes tomorrow.
We will
And
check.
when, is that going to start this year?
I hope so.
Okay. Oh, here we go.
I believe Attorney
What
Boyd
about-
Hughes is working on that, correct?
Is there a set appointments when Riley or some other engineers go down and look at that tilting wall? I just recently I left the cemetery at Dunmore, and I had a little bit of free time, so I went down there and looked at it, and it looks as though it's continuing to go into the neighbors' properties.
This was something I was going to bring up in fifth order, but
Oh, I can wait.
Mrs. Schumacher's referring to the wall on Ryerson Avenue. Frank, can we check in to see if, I know Meadowbrook, we're going to get the stormwater project done for Meadowbrook, but are they thinking about replacing the wall? If we could ask that question.
It is part of the project, but I'll confirm further.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, the problem is they're going to get started before that collapses. That's my,
Correct. I'll check.
okay. Let's see. Oh, the calendars. I had to look at one this week to see what I had to put out. And it just sort of bugs me as to why we went to 6-month calendars instead of the whole year. It doesn't seem very, budget-wise?
The reason I was told they had, the first 6 months went out, we were told the recycling center, we weren't allowed to put paper and cardboard together, so it had to be separated. And we were told other municipalities and boroughs were allowed to do that. So that, we were waiting for the response from the recycling center, and we've got the response. You can't mix anything anymore. It all has to be separate. So the new cards are going to come back out and be the same way.
So they were looking for cost savings. I think they were negotiating cost savings, and they thought in the second 6 months of the year they would see those cost savings. I guess from what Mr. Smurl was saying was they didn't get any cost savings, so the new calendars will be coming out for the next 6 months.
And then next year, will they be for the whole year?
I would imagine that would be
Okay.
the smart thing to
Well,
do
you
rather than
guys
send it twice.
You guys have to vote for it, so I think you could tell that. And then the Pocket Park downtown at Linden and Wyoming, I mean, it's lovely, but there's no place to sit.
Yeah, I believe they did pick the benches out. We discussed this, Mr. Voldenberg, 2 weeks ago, that the city is ordering the benches and other items, garbage cans and different things for down there.
That's correct, all the amenities.
Yep.
No, they're ordering them, or they're
I believe they are
already in
ordering.
that little hut that's back there in the corner?
No, there'll be a lot more benches and more garbage cans and a bunch of other things they've ordered already.
Okay, and since I can't read my handwriting, I'll quit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
May I approach with the handout?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, Council. Virgil Argenta, Scranton. Happy National Public Works Week. Thank you to the Scranton DPW for all your hard work and for all you do for our city. It's greatly appreciated. Do we have any reports or updates on the Muflon and gang study? They've been working on it for the last 2 years. Maybe we can receive a discount or a rebate. The last several murders in the city have not been committed by any military veterans. They have been committed by street gangs. On Friday, May 17th, and this is what this handout is all about, 2024 at 10:30, the City of Scranton held an unhoused task force meeting at City Hall Council Chambers. Was this meeting advertised to the public? And will there be any minutes made available for the public review? Who steers or is the lead person for this task force meeting? Will the public be notified of the next meeting date, time, and location? And will there be any public participation or public comment permitted during any of these meetings? Can the city also provide resumes and experiences for all the board members on the task force to show how they tie in with unhoused individuals? Can the city provide a mission statement and what the goal is and what they're looking to accomplish? Well, we attended this meeting Friday and were surprised to see that there was no representation from local congressmen, United States Senate, Pennsylvania Senate, state reps, Lackawanna County, or Scranton School Board officials. Shockingly, no one who is experiencing homelessness or anyone that has benefited in a positive way by any of these nonprofit agencies are on this board. But there were people who represent the many local nonprofits that make up the board. Can you inquire as a council if there is any data available to how the issue has been addressed and the breakdown of all funding to these agencies on this task force? And what and how they spend the funds and how do they try and correct the issues of homelessness? A city with 70,000 people, and that's not including the county, and this is what we have available. The beds, I had given you a breakdown of the beds. Women's Resource Center should be safe housing for women, 40 beds are available. There's 70,000 people in the city of Scranton, not counting the county, and there's 4 beds available to women. We all know the problems with the domestic violence nowadays. Community Intervention Center, the CIC Safe Haven Apartments. There's only 4 beds available. I have a voting list from there. There's 95 people on it. Catholic Social Services, St. Anthony Shelter, 26 beds available. There's a bishop's appeal in the church quite regularly. Women's Resource Center, TH program, 1 bed available for women. 70,000 people are in the city of Scranton, not including the county. That's pitiful and sickening. St. Joseph's Mother and Infant Program. We all know there's children having children nowadays. 10 beds are available. So this is just an idea of the shortages of beds, and that's not mentioning any of sheltering or no shelter for homeless families. It's about time we start questioning why we have these shortage issues with housing, and where is all this funding going? We have more than we should probably have in nonprofits that work under the guise of helping the homeless and unhoused. It's time we start checking into that. West Scranton Skate Park, located at Jackson Bromley. Is there a log? Is there anything that can be provided regarding the last time it was visited or inspected? The building's lights have been on the outside of this building 24/7 for several months, along with the rotted, dangerously unsafe skate park equipment littering the area. Is there any chance of a neighborhood group getting to tour that building so we can look at the condition of that building? Regarding the National Testing Network for Scranton Police Officers, NTN, has anyone seen the number of negative reviews? And are you aware that it's not a national accredited testing site for the police? Can anyone explain why a 65 is passing for the testing site, but Scranton requires a 70 to pass? Were there more or less applications since the test changed? Has any of the officers who advised the chief or the chief himself in changing this test, had they taken this test? And I'm asking publicly, would they agree to take the test and have their results made public? Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sorry for the speed reading, but I'm trying to get it all in 5 minutes.
Mr. Voldenberg, speaking of that skate park, some of the conditions of the equipment over there seems very bad. Could we reach out and see if there's any kind of cleanup planned by the Parks Department possibly, or if that equipment can be removed from there?
I will. I'll ask.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tom Coyne Manuka. First of all, I was going to speak, but some of my first comments was going to be asking about Smurl, about who was on the city's, Mr. Smurl, after 2 months, about who was on the city homeless committee, and you said you were going to get back with that because you were going to ask someone in the administration. And have you gotten any luck with knowing who's there so you can report it back?
I do have that list. Do I have that?
We have a list. I can provide Mr. Coyne with the listing.
Thank you. And it might be nice to actually have it in the next week's session so anyone can actually take a look and understand who is part of this homeless commission rather than just giving me a list.
You'll have it tomorrow morning, Tom.
Thank you. Second, I understand there's a review in process for materials that were deposited outside. I'm not going to go into that as it will follow whatever course it will. I brought forth the Iron Mountain shred to this body, Iron Mountains and the shred containers. And in looking into them, but for some reason we seem to be wanting to cling to in-house shredding and transporting of in an unsecured manner by unauthorized staff or those who should not be authorized at the liability of everyone involved. I do understand a policy needs to go in place identifying what is recycle, what is private but not sensitive, and what is mandated as shred as sensitive. I also think there are outstanding issues why documents were in the shred that violate the 3-year retention policy. That's not a cleaning person mistake or leaving a box out somewhere, torn in half papers. It's intentional. But the point of violating the city's 3-year retention policy for documents seems to be missed and ignored. Since it was something too burdensome to look in, I decided to take the step for the city itself. Iron Mountain provides standard, a 1-month pickup. They supply containers. Most cost-efficient is a recurring paper shredding, a 65-gallon wheeled container. This container, 4 of them would cost $165 a month, or $1,980 a year. The containers are locked, and someone who is authorized gets a key in case something that's put in them actually needs to be retrieved that was put in there by mistake. The cost for the city of Chester for personal file leaks of this type actually helped to put the city into receivership. To fix it, Iron Mountain ensures with proper training here, it does not happen again. For $2,000 a year, it is insured, the city has 0 liability, gets you a certificate of destruction. How is this even a choice for anyone here to even think about? We understand security issues, like leaving a master key in the drawer of an unlocked office, allowing an intruder in this building full access to everything. Back in late 2018, I believe, I warned the city of issues of a computer infrastructure, a woefully understaffed and undertrained IT department, and the risk of cyber attacks, including ransomware. After a number of months of saying we are looking into it and it's a security matter so we can't discuss it, the city was attacked. The cost of that was absorbed by the insurance initially, but the cyber insurance of this city in the following contract increased by $174,000 a year continuing. We have to pay that because for some reason our local government is reactive and not proactive. We need to be proactive on this and to even consider not getting this, at least for the temporary part, to put shredding bins in place for $200 a month that removes the city from all liability is insanity to consider anything else. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident, taxes paid. Okay. A week or so ago, we got an announcement that they're only getting half of their exorbitant raise for water and services and sewer. Here's an interesting article. It's more like a get ready, a grid game changer. We're hearing all about how we need to beef up our grid and make way for electric cars, and if somebody wants to move 50 miles out into the damn country, guess what? The average ratepayer pays for the lines and infrastructure built to accommodate them out there. Isn't that fine and dandy? We already have the Chamber of Commerce constantly building where they can get a tax break. And they build a building and it's up for 11 years, and the tax break's over in 10, the company moves out and tears it down. That's any wonder why we don't have affordable housing? I'm starting to get get real estate people sending me letters. They'd like to buy my house as an investment. Well, you can have it after I'm gone. Otherwise, don't bother coming on my porch. I'll throw you right off. And there's a big hill there, so they might hurt themselves on the way down. Okay, Beverly last week, Beverly DeBarros requested a little help with her prison things. And you know, like, I learned this from Mr. King, 3 cents a minute to study a tablet, to read a tablet in the county jail. I mean, you know, a lot of those people are in there for a good reason, and some of them aren't. We sent a man a few years ago for $2,500 he owed his ex on child support. And that was wonderful, but it cost us almost $25,000 because he had to work for the recycling center for 6 months, which has been suspended. And then it took him another 6 months. I mean, why don't we just give the lady the money and put a lien against the person? I mean, let's save the $25,000, or at least 20. And then, you know, you're throwing an average jerk in with even possible serious criminals. There's probably 5 people in there for homicide right now. Okay. So try and get them a letter if you can find it within your help. Last week, I heard COVID mentioned and that it was kind of poo-pooed, you know. Well, guess what? There's 1.5 million people dead from it, at least. People weren't even being autopsied or tested from it if they were found dead. They just ship them off. Another one for the slab. And personally, I think that's a big bash to your humanity when you find 1.5 million people died. And that's just in this country. 1.5 million people died from it. I have unique problems, so that's why I have the mask. I've explained that before. And once again, on our 501c3s, we have the Moms for Liberty. It's a 501c3. Now, they're in Philadelphia, so it's an issue here. But down in Florida, they emptied out the libraries of books, like 1984, George Orwell, and such. And we have 3 educators up here. I don't know if you're an educator, but I don't envision you getting a lady to lift a 3-pound weight with a doctorate. So possibly you're a corporate educator. But anyway, you know, some liberty. You can't even read what you want. You can't grow up the way you should. Thank you. Have a good night.
Anyone else?
Good evening, City Council. Mike Mancini, Scranton. First, I want to apologize for everybody here for my actions last week as I left the podium. I struck it harder than I expected out of sheer frustration. You know, there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot of frustration to go around. But the biggest thing on my mind this evening is my son. 4 years ago today, he passed away. He was my only child. He was a Marine, an active Marine, stationed in San Diego, part of the Mass 111 unit. He was responsible for any type of computer equipment, for anything that flew. He was a very smart kid. I would have been proud of him for anything that he would have accomplished in life, and believe me, I am. But to become a Marine is something very special to a father. Back in October of 2019, when he was stationed at Miramar Air Base in San Diego, he was starting to lose his hearing. An ENT at Miramar spoke with him about a procedure where they drill into the back of your ear. It's called a honeycomb. It's about a 45-minute procedure to relieve some of the pressure behind his ear. Attempting to do so, they drilled in too far, ruptured his eardrum. 4.5 hours later, post-op, he had a piece of titanium in his ear, holding up his eardrum to stabilize it so he could hear. Since then, he was having a lot of pain, excruciating pain, while experiencing a problem of my own. I compressed my L1 vertebrae in my back, broken into 17 pieces, and I was in a lot of pain. I was up to about 400 pounds because I couldn't move. So my conversations with my son were several hours talking to him about his pain. And in April of 2020, he had a stroke. He was found unresponsive one Saturday morning. It was late for his unit duties, and they found him. They revived him. He was in the ICU. He could have called anybody, and he chose to call me. He said, "Dad, can you make it out?" I said, "I'll crawl out there if I have to." During COVID, my first flight was to DC. Part of that flight was our Congressman Matt Cartwright. I'd spoken to Matt extensively about issues, that my son was going through. He's proud of our veterans and people who serve, as we all should be. So my last conversation with my son extensively was over a meal at Chick-fil-A. And we talked for a couple of hours, and they were gonna send him home through the Wounded Warrior program. One thing they also did was they took him off of his medication. And I had several conversations with him about listening to your doctors. You only look at yourself in the mirror. Doctors look at several people who look in the mirror, take your medicine as prescribed. At the end of the day, he was in so much pain. He trusted a fellow Marine who introduced him to a civilian. The day after his 26th birthday, 4 years ago today, he passed away. And not a day goes by where I don't miss him. April of 2021, April 21st of 2021, NCIS found this guy. On day 90, I found out it was from a fentanyl overdose. He impacted 2 other people. They were in the hospital 2 weeks before that. And he stopped dealing 4 days after my son's passing. This guy remains in jail. I'm going to find out Friday when sentencing is going to be. It's been a long, drawn process. And it hurts me deeply to know that other people experience the same thing. I just hope that people can make better choices and do things better on a daily basis, because this is not the Scranton that he wanted to come home to. This is not the city that he wanted to call home. And I just pray for the Scranton Police Department and our first responders that go out to these calls on a daily basis, because I know the impact firsthand. And I just pray that we don't have any major crimes, so we could take the drugs and the guns off of our streets. And if you give me one more second, Mr. Smurl, one thing that I got out of the meeting with Chief Carroll a couple of weeks ago when he met with us and we started a West Side Crime Watch was this ring system. This ring system has helped in so many crimes. If you don't want to be part of a neighborhood watch, at least get a ring system. You could write it off, and you could actually help solve some of these crimes, because it's getting out of control, and we need to take our city back. And again, to each one of you, from one parent to another, God bless our city of Scranton. God bless City Council. Thank you to the Scranton Police Department. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Anyone else?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. King, do you have any motions or comments?
I have a few comments. I forgot to mention in third order, tomorrow, in celebration of EMS Week, sponsored by Pennsylvania Ambulance and Transmed Ambulance, they're going to have a Kids Day at McDade Park. That's Wednesday, May 22nd, 4 to 7 p.m. at McDade Park. Maybe I think they're going to have some ambulance equipment up there and some EMS equipment. Might be nice to bring the kids up there tomorrow evening, or from 4 to 7. This afternoon, I had the opportunity to attend a press conference where we distributed $240,000, or at least celebrated $240,000 of ARPA funds that were distributed to local businesses to raise employee wages for the next 2 years through grant funding. Those businesses that benefited from this program included 119 Productions, better known as Center City Print, located on Penn Avenue. They received $50,000. Buona Pizza on Lackawanna Avenue received $30,477. Endeavor Auto and Light Services Incorporated, the rear of North Washington Avenue, $50,000. McCarthy Management Services, $50,000. SoCo Investments, LLC, that's really Sky Auto Sales on Capous Avenue, $35,000. And Zumos Cafe on Marion received $24,154 to help increase wages for their employees. So I thought that was really nice, and we had representatives there from Congressman Cartwright and Senator Casey's office, along with local media. Thrilled to see, finally, Meadow Avenue. Anyone that travels Meadow Avenue, it's paved, it's marked. People aren't bottoming out, because that was probably one of the worst streets in the city. I can't say it was the worst, but it's probably one of the most heavily traveled streets in the city, so that really needed to be done. And on top of that, Hemlock Street was paved, and the Oakmont Park was completed. We were up there for the ribbon cutting, and they did a really nice job on that. I found out that as far as pools this summer, Novembrino Park, the splash pad will open this weekend. Weston Park Pool will open the following weekend. I believe it's June 6th or 7th. And Connell Park, that's being evaluated right now by the engineers. They're having some issues up there. Also, I don't know if anyone saw, they had a soft opening of the roof at Oppenheim downtown. That's Adam and Casey Donahue, two West Scranton High School graduates, and they're developers in our city. They opened up like a bar and restaurant on the roof of the old Oppenheim's building, and that's going to be open this weekend on Labor Day weekend from like, I don't know the hours exactly, it might be noon till 9 or noon till 10, but I'm looking forward to going up there and checking that out, and kind of be a beautiful view of our downtown. And it's nice to see two West Scranton kids develop a business, and they've developed a number of townhouses and apartments in our city. So I wish them well and encourage people to get down there for that. Want to remind everyone, school's getting out soon. As mentioned with the bikes, kids are going to be all over the place in about 2 or 3 weeks. I just want everybody to just be cognizant. Please slow down. Please watch for children as the summer comes on. And the last thing I want to mention, as far as code enforcement is concerned, I would like to check into that time stamping and dating, and if they're taking photos when code enforcement goes out. Well, one thing I'd also like to look into, I know we get a lot of complaints about code enforcement, but I would like to see if we could send something to the administration and find out, as a result of the 10 code enforcement officers that we hired, how are we doing with that in terms of the number of citations issued, the number of citations paid? From what I understand, that's a double-edged sword. Some people, end up getting code violations, and maybe it was a mistake, or maybe, it got cleaned up. But I'd like to know how effective that program is running, because it's my understanding that we've been able to identify a lot of absentee landlords and properties that were not previously identified. Maybe they said they only had one apartment in there. We found out they had 4. And then a lot of blighted properties are being addressed as a result of that code enforcement. So I know a lot of people complain about code enforcement, but I would really like to just try to get some feedback, some statistics from the administration as to how effective our code enforcement is. Maybe they can develop a list of, number of citations issued, number of maybe apartments that have been identified that now are ending up having to pay PPT and things like that. If we could do that, Mr. Voldenberg. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I have a few. To join in with some of my colleagues, I'd like to wish DPW and the workers for DPW and Scranton a great Public Works Week. I know last week some properties on Merrifield Avenue were, it was brought up here in public comment about long grass, and they were issued code enforcement citations. I do feel, I took a ride down the next day, and it appeared that DPW had cut the grass on those properties, so thank you very much. I know those families are very appreciative with the hardships they're going through with losing a home. I'd like to thank Mr. Mancini for his comments made tonight. Hopefully that will help someone out there watching stay away from drugs. I got a property, 736, 738 North Sumner Avenue. Mr. Voldenberg, if we could send that to code enforcement. I got some complaints about that property. We did get a few answers from last week. Some questions were asked about the National Testing Network, and this one's a rather long answer. So, has the number of applicants increased with the changeover from LEAB, former vending for the testing, to NTN? The name of the test has no impact on the number of applicants. However, SPD has seen its greatest interest since before COVID, and there are multiple factors that may account for the increase, including but not limited to the updated radio residency requirement. The next question was, what was the reason for the changeover to NTN in 2023? And the answer was the applicants get to schedule the test when it's most convenient for them. No travel is required, no missed work or missed family obligations to attend a test at a brick and mortar setting. Recruiting is the toughest it's ever been, and we need new and inventive ways to contact and process potential applicants. NTN fit that mold and are the second LE agency to utilize NTN in Pennsylvania, or we are the second law enforcement agency to utilize NTN in Pennsylvania. Was the contract placed out the bid? No, it was below the bid threshold. Is there an accounting of the number of pass-fail candidates available? Not at this moment in time. We are currently in an open testing period, and we can provide more specific detail upon the conclusion. SPD has hired 10 officers using this online platform from the 2023 testing period. Is the city better with NTN than with the prior vendor, LEAB? Yes, we found greater flexibility in the testing, more online exposure to our targeted audience, streamlined our application process, and increased transparency in the testing process. And then the last one is, what is the time frame between scheduled tests? Should a candidate miss or fail upon testing? I know we did get an email about this, as well as some of the public comments. Applicants can only test when SPD has an open testing period. Testing periods are scheduled based on SPD staffing levels and expected vacancies. If an applicant fails the test, they can retake the test in the next testing period as long as there are 90 days in between the test dates. SPD reached 95% of its recruiting goal, so it's undetermined if we need more or one testing period this year. And I know we did get an email, I think council as a whole, about if someone has failed the test, it seemed that the window wasn't large enough for the applicant that may have failed the test to retake the test. So if we could we ask Mr. Voldenberg if we could extend that a little bit, so if someone failed on their initial test, they could possibly retake? That's all for that question. I had asked about Kaiser Valley. Some money had been switched from Kaiser Valley flood funding into City Hall repairs. I asked for a little clarification last week, and the answer I got back was the city has sent correspondence explaining the movement of the funding, which is just that budget transfer. The city is reallocating funds to accommodate renovations at the city clerk and controller's offices, but they do state that the Kaiser Valley flood project is fully funded through other line items. So glad to hear that. That's all for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothchild, do you have any motions or comments?
I do, yes. First, I'd also like to start off by thanking our DPW for the National Public Works Week. Apparently, it's also the EMS week, so I'd also like to thank EMS workers for all that they do. But especially our DPW, we truly do appreciate what you do to keep our city clean. You know, anything ranging from picking up garbage to sweeping the streets to working on the gutters. So we do appreciate that. And I just wanted to make a comment from something that Councilman King had brought up about code enforcement. So we used to receive a report. I think it might have been a quarterly report, and it had numbers for quality of life tickets issued, broken down into like which neighborhoods were receiving the door tags, the quality of life tickets. And it's been quite some time since we received that. So I think that might have been something that Eileen Cipriani was putting together when she was Director of Community Development, and that was really helpful. It was like an OpenGov PowerPoint report that she would put together, so perhaps we can request that we start receiving that again, at least on a quarterly basis, so we can see how code enforcement is doing in terms of the quality of life tickets. And last week, I met with Steve Osolinsky from Pennsylvania American Water because there were several projects that I wanted to discuss with him and check in on, and he informed me that the projects for the spring were basically completed. Now they just have to go through the paving restoration, which is going to take place during June, and he anticipated that that should be completed throughout the city on their with their projects within that month. The only one being Monroe Avenue, which was added on. The work is going to begin on Monroe Avenue, but the paving won't be completed in June like the other projects. That'll come a little bit later. And he also assured me that the compaction testing is being completed on those paved cuts, and that the work's being done properly. So that's done on every job where they test the level of compaction to avoid any potholes or issues occurring after the paving's completed. I wanted to discuss the unsheltered task force meeting, which I was present at. I had requested to be a part of that task force, and I believe they said there were 22 members, but not all members were able to attend. But it looks like the majority of the people that were there were representing those nonprofit organizations that serve the unsheltered or the homeless population. So, I think it's certainly appropriate that those are the people that are a part of it, since they're the ones serving those communities and can help us in identifying the gaps in services, which is something that we had discussed. We talked about, or I spoke about this in caucus some more in detail, but we will request minutes from that meeting. I could just give a brief overview, but we were given a point in time update, which is a survey that's completed and funded through HUD, and that's completed January 31st of each year to assess how many people are homeless, and that was one of the things that we were provided numbers on. We also discussed what's needed with a shelter, so there are considerations to add another shelter in the city, and so it's found that we're really lacking in services for families and shelter for families, and so that's something that the city is exploring, I think still in the very early stages, but looking at what would that space look like, who would run it, what funding is needed for that, how many beds are needed, all those things are being discussed. And also talked about potential for a code red shelter, just like we have a code blue shelter in the wintertime when it becomes too cold, during the summertime on those very hot nights, having code red shelters. So what would be, what degree would it have to hit in order to have that? Would that be at, Weston Field like it is during code blue? So those were the basics of our discussion for the task force. And the meetings are quarterly, but I don't have a date on when the next one will occur. Let's see here. Oh, and to my knowledge, it wasn't a public meeting. I don't know that the future ones are supposed to be public meetings or just with task force members, but I'm happy to continue to provide updates. I had an update on South Washington Avenue, which I previously had a complaint on, and that was that the vehicles and trucks are still parking along South Washington Avenue and really blocking line of sight for those exiting the Wright Center or other businesses around South Washington. So if we could request again that the SPD be ticketing on South Washington Avenue or have those vehicles removed, because I don't want to see accidents occurring because of that, and it sounds like people are still not being compliant. I don't know, I didn't receive an update as to whether or not they have been out, if they did ticket. So Mr. Voldenberg, if you could please ask the SPD about that specific area.
I will, Dr. Rothchild.
Thank you. And something to send to code enforcement. Behind the Jack Williams along East Gibson and Wyoming, it's pretty overgrown, the grass on the Jack Williams side, but then across the street on the other side, in previous years, we've received complaints about that being overgrown and taking over the sidewalk, so people can't even walk on the sidewalk, and I think it's behind Cooper's. I know at one point we had gotten it cleaned up and figured out who owned that part of the property and walkway, but if we can contact them again to
I
get
will,
that
I'll
cleaned
take
up.
care of it.
Okay. Great, that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild. Mr. McAndrew, do you have any motions or comments?
A few comments. Yeah, during caucus, the homeless task force meeting came up, and I asked for, is there minutes? And for us, for not just council, but for all of you, and especially if it's not going to be open to the public, so we know what's going on. We need to know what's going on. It's a huge problem in the area. We all sympathize and want some answers or want to know the plan. We need a plan, that's obvious. So I look forward to the meeting minutes and updates. Also, it was brought to my attention, Knox Road off of Lake Scranton Road. The road is terrible. Almost unpassable, I'm told, by some residents. It's not on the paving list, unfortunately. I hope it gets put on next year's. I know sometimes, for whatever reasons, a road will come off that list, maybe if it's done by a utility or another road gets put on, but let's ask the administration for that consideration if it's available. But until then, maybe let's see if administration could do something with the road and not wait another year for these residents.
I will, sir.
Thank you. Also, there's been some great discussion about pave cuts, about pave cut inspectors, about the lack of, or how many we have. So also, someone brought up to my attention that, if, these pave cuts are being, hopefully they're being inspected, but the utility companies that make these cuts have to get permits. This is revenue to the city. So I'm not sure if that's occurring. So, or how it used to occur, maybe. So what I would like to ask administration, request administration, that a copy of the checks, the revenue from these utility companies and the permits that produce this revenue over the last 6 months. Okay? And I would also like to know how much revenue came into this account, because I'm told that there's a certain account for this. How much revenue came into this account over the past 5 years, so I can compare to maybe the past 6 months or the past year. Because I know, like I said, nobody knows what's going on with pave cuts. We have a body, we have half a body, we have 1.5 bodies, we don't have anybody. So if we're missing out on revenue, we need to know that. Because I do know Mr. Hazora used to handle all that. He'd go on scene, he'd check out these pave cuts. He had a relationship with these utilities companies. I think we don't have that anymore. So we might be losing revenue. So, and I know he handled the process, but I think, and he did a great job, but I think he left his position about 4 years ago. So I want to know what happened from then till now, and see if we lost revenue or how we're going to plan on
We did receive some extensive reports last week, so I have to review them with Mr. Schuster.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a copy of a lot of the receivables I asked for the last 4 years. What you might be asking for something a little bit different.
I want to.
But
okay.
yeah, I have to go through. There was quite a stack of documents that I have to go through.
All right. Well, sure.
But I'll ask about the last 6 months, however.
All right. That's a start. Thank you. So I'd also, in closing, I'd like to wish everybody here a happy and safe Memorial Day weekend with your family and friends. Let's not forget to honor and remember the brave men and women of our military that gave their lives so we have the freedom to honor them and hang out with our friends and family on a beautiful long weekend, enjoy these freedoms because of them. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew.
Councilman Smurl, I'm sorry. Do you mind if I add something to the pave cut issue? Because I've been looking into it, and I had been meaning to provide some further details on the ordinance that we currently have, and I have just some questions to add on for Mr. Voldenberg to ask the administration on that. So according to the ordinance that we already have in place, we have a 5-year warranty period for the utility company. So if there is an issue with their pave job, then we can have them fix it based on the warranty that we have. And if they refuse, then we could potentially send the bill to the company with a 20% upcharge. And if they don't pay it, then according to our ordinance that we already have in place, then we could fine them $1,000 daily for not paying. So we have an ordinance that I don't believe is actually being enforced. And if we did enforce it, maybe we would have less issue with our pave cuts with utility companies. So, Mr. Voldenberg, my question is if any of this has been enforced, if we've ever collected fines from the utility companies, or if we've used the warranty to have them go back and correct their pave cuts.
I'll research that, and I'll also ask them how they're going to approach it with Riley Associates as the new pave cut inspectors.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I know we discussed that in caucus, but officially right now, we do not have a pave cut inspector, and it's being done by the city engineer. That was the answer we got. All right, thank you.
How about adding on, what's that going to cost us compared to an employee? Please, thank you.
I will.
Thank you. The following ones are the complaints and requests I have received and forwarded. 339 Patterson Avenue, for storm drain cleaning and street cleaning on the entire block. 129 South Webster. On the side street, Hemlock Street was just paved, and the person that lives there said Her driveway now has an uneven access into it, so we sent that in to find out if that can be corrected. 321 Prospect Avenue in the rear, the court is filled with garbage. There's carpets and chairs, and there's just a bunch of stuff out there. And also, at the end of that block, at Donnelly Court and River Street, that was forwarded in. 328 Pittston Avenue, quality of life issues, trash, garbage, unregistered van. That was all sent into code enforcement. It was issued a door tag, and a follow-up will be on May 30th. 200 block of Ham Court for pothole patching on the entire block. And also, this week, Councilman McAndrew and myself, we attended Kevin's Worldwide and joined their celebration of 40 years in business. They're located at 710 Capels Avenue, and they provide all kinds of promotional items. They're a fifth-generation family-owned business that's been in Scranton since the beginning. So congratulations to Kevin, and thank you for being part of the city of Scranton. I also joined Councilman King and Mayor Cognetti at urban cutting on newly built Oakmont Park. This playground is another great addition to the city, and hopefully this summer we'll have a lot more. On Friday, Mr. Voldenberg and I met with Commissioners Gahn and McGloin and the mayor and representatives from the borough of Dunmore. We spoke about projects that we are going to join together and work on, street pavings and other things where they have half a block. And anyway, as that progresses, I will keep you updated on that. Thursday, I attended the Armed Forces Luncheon, and on Saturday, I walked in the Armed Forces Parade. These events were really great to see all our veterans back out. A lot of them from the Gina Murley Center came over. It was great to meet all of these gentlemen and thank them for their service. My final comment is about the Governor Shapiro's visit on Monday to propose $18 million to increase his 2024-2025 budget to boost the Commonwealth's tourism industry. While I'm all in support for the tourism industry, I'm also very concerned about the 5 homicides in our city, increasing gang violence, and other problems that we're facing in the city. I was hoping the governor, while he was here, would spare a few minutes and stop by and speak with us, but that didn't happen. So hopefully, while he's out doing his covering Pennsylvania in his motorhome, or whatever you call that thing, if he gets a chance, maybe on your way back here, stop and speak with us about all of the crime in the city of Scranton. The citizens are here. We're not worried about funding right now as far as tourism. I mean, we have Steamtown Park or Steamtown Railroad and stuff, but 5 homicides in 5 months and the gang activity, I think that is a bit more concerning at this point. That's all I have, Mr. Voldenberg.
5B for introduction, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into an easement with Marissa Linity to remove dangerous shrubbery resulting from the abutting city property of Powderly Park.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with McNeese, Wallace, and Nurick, LLC to perform legal services for the American Rescue Plan Act Stormwater Project easements.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Nassar Real Estate and Appraisals, Inc. to perform appraisal services for American Rescue Plan Act Stormwater Project easements.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with D&M Construction Unlimited, Inc. to perform rehabilitation for Connell Park Pool.
At This time I entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file to council number 17, 2024, an ordinance, the cleanup of the code ordinance of 2024, removing outdated provisions of Scranton City Code, including the repeal or amendment of provisions regarding birth certificates, defense counsel, library deed, golf commission, gas piping standards, CETA bonding, air pollution control officer, city code availability, beasts of burden, housing supervisor lead-based paint manager, private pool inspections, immunization travel cards, micro enterprise revolving loan program fees, plumbing code, construction code, contracting procedures, electrical code, and coal mining.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 40, 2024, reappointment of Evie Rafalco McNulty as a member of the Scranton Public Library Authority for a 4-year term to expire on July 30th, 2028.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 41, 2024, reappointment of Norma Jeffries as a member of the Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority for a 5-year term to expire on June 17th, 2029.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 42, 2024, reappointment of Norma Jeffries as a member of the Shade Tree Commission for a 5-year term to expire on October 11th, 2029.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 43, 2024, appointment of Sarah Cruz as a member of the Scranton Housing Authority Board of Commissioners to fill the unexpired term of Krista Murray, beginning June 1st, 2024, and expiring on September 27th, 2027.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage on item 7D.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 44, 2024, reappointment of Joseph J. Murphy as a member of the Scranton City Planning Commission for a 4-year term to expire on December 31st, 2027.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted.
7F, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 45, 2024, reappointment of Michael Cummings as a member of the Scranton Redevelopment Authority Board for a 5-year term to expire on October 1st, 2029.
Mr. Voldenberg, was 4-year term? 4-year term or 5-year term?
5-year term.
Okay. As chairperson for Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7F.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7F legally and lawfully adopted.
Eighth order, no business at this time.
If there is no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.